So this morning's going to be a 10 to 15 minute flow just to warm up the body. This is my routine actually when I'm short for time, and my focus is always hips and postural stuff. So we'll just get straight into it. The usual rules. Go at your own pace. You can skip anything, adjust, modify. If you've done my practices, you know that golden rule is just make this practice your own. And that's what yoga's all about. So we can start in Shavasana, or seated actually. It's only a short video. We'll have to skip the beginning Shavasana. We'll come into a seated position, relaxing through the hips. If we've got tight hip flexors or tight lower back, you might even like to sit on a block or a cushion. The benefit of being at home, you can use any props that you've got around the house. But just finding that seated position, relaxing through the shoulders, rest the eyelids closed to start. So just focusing on that breath. So breathing deep down into the belly, feeling it rise up into the chest. It's always good to begin the morning just noticing the quality of our breath, whether we start our day breathing a little more shallow, whether we can introduce a little bit more depth, feeling those lungs expand and collapse. Nice gentle flow. Feel that release of stress throughout the body. It's a nice way to start the day, or just any break that we have. Take this time to check in, to put things down, to let things go. Just notice how we are in the present moment. As we bring those hands to rest on the knees, taking our 3 big shrugs. So on an inhale, we're going to draw our shoulders forwards and get a nice tall lift. And as we exhale, releasing them back and down. Moving with the breath. So inhale, shoulder shrug. Exhale, release. One more time, inhale, getting that nice tall lift throughout the whole body. Rising up through those shoulders, exhale, releasing all the way down through the back of the body. You're going to add a little roll of the shoulders, releasing through those shoulder blades as well. And taking this left arm up and over, lengthening out through that right side of the neck. I'm just thinking, when I teach, I usually mirror. My brain hasn't woken up whether I should be mirroring or just doing what I say. I'll find out at the end of this video. Good thing it's an equipment test this morning. So feeling that right side of the neck open up. Relaxing down through the right shoulder. If we feel a lift through the knees and the thighs, if we've got those tight hips, seeing if we can relax those down. Or again, if we find something to sit on, even just lifting us up 5 or 10 centimeters can take a lot of pressure off those hips. Keeping that nice steady breath. And releasing here. We're going to shift our gaze to bringing that chin towards the armpit or shoulder, tucking it into the chest as we take that hand to the base of the skull. So opening up into this upper trap. Feeling that right shoulder blade release a little more. So we're feeling that space, that length that we create through the muscle. We're not trying to force the head. We're just finding that nice gentle opening. Nice deep breaths. And releasing this side, facing center, taking that right arm up and over. Opening that side neck, so we can either relax through that left arm if we'd like to, we can extend it out. Sometimes that can help feel a little further opening there through the side neck. Noticing if that shrugging wants to creep back in. Relaxing through the shoulders, keeping that space around the neck and the head. Just keeping aware of that gentle flow of the breath. And then releasing slightly, taking our turn of the head, bringing that chin in. And relaxing out here. Let's walk these hands forward. So coming towards the front of our mat, grounding through these palms, knees underneath the hips, taking our cat-cow. Actually, first we'll take a little side to side through the shoulders and the hips. I like to get that lateral movement. Getting that nice S shape, our snake movement. And then coming back to middle on our inhale, opening through the chest, dropping the belly, lifting up through that tailbone, and then exhale. Pressing through the palms, rounding through the spine, lifting the back of the heart up towards the ceiling, moving with the breath. So nice, slow, gentle, especially as a morning practice. We're just warming up. So we're not using any excessive force. It's this sense of effortless action, this movement without resistance. Taking one more round of breath. And coming back to our nice long back, tucking those toes under, coming into our downward facing dog. A little pedal out through the feet here, warming up through the backs of the legs, extending nice and long through the calves. Lengthening nice and long through the arms, spreading those fingers, letting that head hang heavy. And beginning to walk our feet to the front of our mats. Taking our ragdoll, so finding this fold, bend through those knees as much as we need to. We can take those hands to the opposite elbows. Let that head hang, finding a gentle sway. And releasing those fingertips towards the floor. Let's inhale a half lift. Exhale, folding forwards. One more time. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, fold. Bending through those knees. On an inhale, rising all the way tall, extending up through the fingertips. And exhale, diving back over, keeping that heart nice and open. Long through that spine. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Bend those knees, drive tall. Inhale, reaching those fingertips up. Taking our side bends, we're going to ground that right foot, taking a lean to our left. Inhale, tall. Exhale, opposite side. Once more through each. Full deep breaths. One more time. Inhale, reaching tall. Exhale, finding our fold. Taking our half lift. And bringing our hands to the mat. Stepping back to our plank, getting this nice long plank position so we can be on toes or we can release those knees to the floor for support. Getting nice and long through the body, hugging that core in. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, lowering down, chaturanga, leading with that chest as we inhale, pressing to either our cobra or upward facing dog if it's feeling okay for that lower back. And then exhale, downward facing dog. Starting to warm up through the body, we're going to inhale to high plank. Exhale, chaturanga. Inhale, find that back bend. Exhale, downward facing dog. One more time. Inhale, plank. Exhale, lower. Up dog or cobra. Downward facing dog. Gazing between those hands, bending the knees, and step or hop those feet to the front of our mat. Take our half lift. Exhale, forward fold. Bend those knees. Inhale, rising up. Exhale, diving over. Half lift. And folding forwards, we're going to come into our little twist. So we're bending through that right knee, inhaling our left fingertips up towards the ceiling. And as we exhale, releasing that hand back to the mat. Swapping sides. Inhale, reaching tall. Exhale, fold. Flowing with that breath. So we can have the fingertips towards the mat. We can have them resting on the shins if that's more available. Finding that opening or towards the thighs. So getting this opening through the upper body, that lengthening through the hamstrings. It's a good way to get a lot of movement through the body. Returning those hands to center. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, hands to mat. Stepping or hopping back. Take that breath in. Exhale, chaturanga. Up dog. Downward facing dog. Inhale, high plank. Exhale, lower. Inhale, open. Downward facing dog. We're going to inhale this left heel nice and tall, lengthening that left leg, stepping through, taking our low lunge. So we're finding that right knee lowering to the mat. We can rest those hands to the floor. We can frame the foot if we'd like to, but just lowering through the hips. So we're getting into that right hip flexor. Sinking with that breath, keeping that lower back nice and long. So if the tips, if you think of it like a seesaw, if the front tips of the hips are dipping, if we're getting that compression in the lower back, anchor that tailbone a little more, feeling that opening more through the hip flexor. And lengthening through this front leg, taking our hamstring fold, so drawing those toes towards the chest and melting that belly button towards the thigh. We can bend through that knee if we're feeling more that tingling behind the leg or that lower back or hunch of the upper back. Bend that knee a little. Take our fold there. And bending through this front knee, framing the foot, tuck those back toes under, stepping back to our plank, take our time, inhale at the top, exhale, chaturanga. Up dog, downward facing dog. Inhale that right heel tall, stepping through between the hands, finding that low lunge. And again, lowering through those hips, deepening that lunge. Keeping that belly button hugged in, so that core switched on. It'll help us keep that stability, integrity through the hips and the lower back. And lengthening through this front leg. So those toes drawing in, getting that lengthening through the calf as well. Finding that fold, any little adjustments that we need to take. If we're really tight through the hamstrings, we're at home, we could get cushions, pillows or blocks, whatever we've got, to place under the hands for that extra support. So if we're folding forwards, but just getting that hunch, we don't feel supported, for a little wobbly, even if we've got a couch or a wall that we can put that hand against and not folding so deep. Bending through that front knee, tucking the back toes, stepping that back, that right foot back, take our breath. Exhale, lower. Elbows in nice and tight. Inhale, pressing open. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, left heel to rise. Stepping outside that left hand this time. Finding our lizard lunge. We can release that back knee to the floor. And then we can start to lower ourselves down. So through the torso. Again, props, blocks, anything that we have there for support if we'd like to. It can be palms or forearms. Or if we want to keep getting into this hip flexor a little more, we can take hold of that back foot. Hitchhiker's thumb, so making sure that thumb is pointing up towards the ceiling, taking the outer edge of the foot and drawing that heel in towards the hip. So this is my favorite one. This is why I got into yoga. It was a release for the lower back. So if we're especially tight through the hips and the lower back, it's a really good one. If we're sitting down a lot, in my case, at the time I was cycling a fair bit, so I was getting nice and tight through those hip flexors. And releasing through that back leg. Both hands to the front of our mat, stepping back to plank, taking our flow. Full deep breath. Coming back to our downward facing dog. Inhale the right heel tall. Exhale, stepping outside that hand, finding that lizard lunge position, and whichever option that we'd like. I might be going over 15 minutes. We'll see how we go. And releasing the back leg, tucking the back toes, stepping that right foot back to our plank. Exhale, lower. Up dog. Downward facing dog. Inhale, left heel rises, taking our pigeon this time, bringing that left foot towards that right side of our mat, lengthening through that back leg. And beginning to lower ourselves down, we can deepen the stretch by bringing that left foot a little further forwards. By keeping the hips level, we can start to melt down here. So that head can be rested to the hands or the floor, or if we're nice and tight through these hips still, we can keep the elbows there for support. Pressing back up through the hands. Tucking the back toes, finding our three-legged dog. So we're nice and long, extending through that left leg, releasing it to the floor for our downward facing dog. Swapping sides. Inhale, right leg. Exhale. Taking that lizard lunge. Again, checking in that we're square through the hips. Finding that lowering down, so option to bring that right foot a little further forwards to deepen into that right glute. Melting in. And this time from here, we're going to walk our way up with the hands and bringing that left leg around to the front of our mat to our seated position. So if we'd like to take a Shavasana here, because it's a shorter video, I'm going to skip it, but we can always pause the video and take a Shavasana now if we'd like to. Otherwise, finding that seated position, once more taking hands to heart center. And just resting the eyelids down. And checking in once more with that breath. As well as how we're feeling throughout the whole body now. Compared to when we first came to our mats this morning, or whatever time of day we're practicing. But just noticing how much of a difference even just 10 to 15, maybe 20 minutes of practice can make. As we bow our heads to our hands, we honour ourselves and each other with Namaste.